The Flicks Book Club.
The Flicks
Na-na-na-na-na-na-na.
Book Club.
Yeah, I'm not doing this.
Hey, welcome to the Flicks Book Club. My name is Dennis Rooney.
I'm Steve McDonald.
Casey Aurora.
And check us out on the internet at flicksbookclub.com. Hit us up on Twitter, all that stuff. This week we watched The Bounty, a.k.a. the PG movie with the most breasts exposed I've ever seen. This was a PG movie.
PG?
This was a PG movie. It stars a lot of heavy hitters. We got Mel Gibson,
Ton of tits.
Anthony Hopkins, Daniel
lot of
Day-Lewis, Liam Neeson, and, again, dozens and dozens of titties.
Like a Polynesian village, literally, of
Yeah.
tits.
Like a Polynesian village that praises titties. It's heavy. It's heavy, guys.
Okay.
The story is about...
Let's keep going. I'm surprised we're at the titties.
Yeah, I just
this
had to
close
say that
the
off the
front.
bat.
Right.
That was a big thing in this movie.
It's not Tahiti, it's Tatiti.
Too early. We didn't even get to the break yet.
Sorry.
Okay. This movie's about basically Anthony Hopkins' character, William Bly, Lieutenant Bly.
Mm-hmm.
He brings on Fletcher Christian and this guy Churchill, Liam Neeson, John Fryer, Daniel Day-Lewis, and they're going to go to Tahiti to get breadfruit, bring it to Jamaica
Right.
because it's like good fodder food for the slaves, something like that. It's really not important what they're bringing. It's like, but that's the
They're
mission.
going,
And
they're going to Tahiti to get breadfruit plants to take it to
Yeah, to make
Jamaica
it-
to plant breadfruit
right,
plants
so
in
because
Jamaica.
but something to do with slaves, though, right? Didn't I hear
It's
that?
cheaper than bananas.
Cheaper than
Yeah.
bananas. Okay. And in doing so, they're going to circumnavigate the globe, or at
Mm.
least that's the plan. And things go awry,
Right.
and there's a mutiny. This is all explained off the top. This whole movie is pretty much done through flashbacks. I picked this movie because my good friend John told me I had to see it. And he's not a guy who'd tell me to watch an older film like this. You know, he's
Uh-huh.
like KC. He doesn't want anything older than 5 years old. And he told me, he said, Mel Gibson, Hopkins, Daniel Day-Lewis, Liam Neeson. I was like, I have to see this movie. Plus, it's set at sea.
Right.
And I'm going to go with a heavy stream it, guys.
Mm.
I really enjoyed this movie.
Okay.
And I don't like these kinds of movies, these historical, slightly fictionized things. This was great. Stream it. Even for casual viewing, stream it.
Steven?
Steven does not agree.
I am going to go with don't stream it.
Oof.
I was bored.
Right.
So bored.
Right. Right. I get it. I'm going to go with a stream it.
Good.
I just, I understand your boredom. I can understand that, but this
I
is...
can't. I think you were just daunted by 2 hours
I
long.
mean, I can't. I can understand his boredom as for him. I can't understand his boredom as a human being. So I would say that do that. Stream it because it's a boat full of Donald Crowhursts. We got so much deep water, and they get into it.
It's
so,
not because the majority of them don't want to circumnavigate the globe.
right. That's true, and I think part
He
of
wanted to.
no, they all wanted to.
The
They
parts
all,
that are
they
in-
all knew what they signed on for. It's just that when it came to do it, they didn't want to go forward. It was
it's
too
similar
dangerous.
to Donald. A majority of him wanted to circumnavigate the world, and a good part didn't. But the ones that did overruled, much like Donald Crowhurst in Deepwater. But that's why I think that's why they did.
Crowhurst's feelings mutinied him, is what you're saying?
Yeah, I think that's what it is. It's
All
very
right.
interesting.
Well, go watch this movie,
Yeah.
or don't, and listen in and hear what
or
we
watch
have to say.
Deepwater, since we have so many things to say about that.
Deepwater, or what was the other one, right?
All is lost.
All is lost.
yeah.
Yeah, just anything where someone's going to die at sea.
Right.
All right,
Yeah.
we'll be back in a minute after with some spoilers.
William, about your decision to go around the Horn.
William. Not sir, not captain. William.
I don't think the men will have it.
Oh, the men won't have it. Are they in charge of the bounty?
They might be if you insist.
Again, would you repeat that, please? The men might be in charge. What are you threatening me with?
It's not a threat, it's a warning.
Oh, there are rumblings, are there?
No. There is fear.
Around the Horn is the easiest way, the better way, and that is how we will go. Anything more?
Okay, here's what I'm going to argue right now.
Right.
Is that this movie had a lot of potential to be boring. Excuse me. But when you start off a movie in British 1700s, people with white hair wigs. One of the first thing that
I
bothered
almost
me.
lost myself on the hats. Like
The
I was,
hats are insane.
I was literally like, I'm done.
It's a pretty accurate period piece in terms of fashion and stuff
Right.
like that.
Well,
I'd
no,
say.
and like there were a couple things when it first started out where I was like all on board because they did a couple things like, and it was a very simple thing that stuck with me of Anthony Hopkins where I was like, you're a good actor.
Oh, so amazing in this film.
Was when he sat down right at the beginning of the trial,
right.
and he takes his hat off and then
Yeah.
fixes his hair like a normal human being.
Yeah.
Right.
And I was like, oh, that's awesome because I've never thought about the fact that they did that.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
just
But, like-
constantly living in a state of discomfort.
Yeah, like, well, not just a state of discomfort, but like they're always like in the wigs and like
Right.
prim and proper. And he was just not. He just looked like a guy who had just come in from the bar, who was just
Yeah.
like, why am I in trouble?
Yeah. Well, what did I do?
Like I'm in the principal's office. I should probably fix my hair.
Well, why is he in trouble?
Why is he in trouble? Well,
Right.
He lost his ship,
Yeah.
and he's at
No.
court.
He did not lose it.
Yeah.
It was taken
It was taken
from him.
from him,
Right.
which
It's-
was an excellent point. That
it's-
he, every time I thought they had him pinned, and it was going to be like, oh, this guy's at fault. He was
Right.
like, here's what you really mean, and
Yeah.
here's what happened.
It's like a guy showing
Yeah.
up to a car rental place without the car.
You know what?
Now
I want to
having
get.
explain
I wanna
himself.
I'm going to skip trying to convince Steven
Yeah.
that this
I
movie
so
is better.
hope that every rental car place, if you show up without it, pulls you into a back room where you got to explain to like 7 guys who are in regal hats with wigs.
You don't think that? You don't think that doesn't happen at Enterprise? It definitely happens at Enterprise.
Listen, Steven is wrong. This movie's fantastic,
It's
and
a
I don't
good
even want to
movie.
spend. I don't want to spend this episode trying to convince you that it's good.
Don't. You shouldn't. You're leading
I
in
wanna ask
charge.
you guys-
You gotta understand the things that I have problems with this movie are mostly that it's like it's 2 hours and 11 minutes long, and it's not the fact that it's 2 hours and 11 minutes long that bothers me.
Yeah.
It's the fact that it could have been half an hour shorter.
I don't think so.
No.
I disagree.
There are whole
These guys
parts
spent
of
years
this
at
movie.
sea.
They give you a lot of titties. You know what?
Yeah, at least they make it. Listen,
I would have loved this movie when I was like 13 years old
Right.
and didn't really have access to the internet, and it
Right.
would have been on HBO, and it would have said PG, and it would have started off with like that opening little screen would have come up where it would have said like nudity, violence, and I would have been like, I'm watching this forever.
Right.
I can't believe they got this much nudity into a PG
It's
film.
obscene.
You know how? It's because they must have just looked at it and been like, it's culture. It's a
Yeah,
culture.
it is,
Like
but-
in that culture, they don't wear tops.
It's kind of like
so,
when they show like National Geographic stuff and it's in those countries where they're all topless anyway. That stuff's rated G.
I know, but that's
Yeah.
National Geographic. This is like fiction. This is a movie.
Right.
You know what I mean?
This isn't fiction. This is based on a true story.
It's
That's
based
true.
on something, but it's still. And actually, surprisingly, this movie is supposed to be. There's been like 5 movies made about this story, and this one is supposed to be like the most accurate. And I thought watching it, I was like,
Probably.
this must be pretty sensationalized. But a lot of it, like I read up on it, and a lot of it's like pretty true.
Yeah, you know, the thing is, what I really like about this movie is that it gives you, lets you know about the star-studded cast. Like, they go on to
Yeah.
do all the things that you see them do in this movie in a way. You know, where it's like Anthony Hopkins is a little bit of a creepy dude in a way, and it's just like so similar to the things that he does.
He's not a creepy dude.
He's like a creepy captain. He's like
No,
mad
he's
weird.
not.
And then
He's
he
just British.
he definitely has an undertone to him where it's almost like a lot of the other guys are like very much like, I'm Christian and I'm gonna pay for these sins when I like later.
Yeah.
And he has an attitude to him that's just like, I must keep all of my clothes buttoned.
yeah, it's mad.
Yeah, he's a British lieutenant
Yeah.
in the British Navy.
And
Like that's
that's-
a big deal. You have a reputation to maintain. He's in charge of like a lot of people for years at a time while out at sea. I will say this though.
That's still creepy. You can.
You know, no, you know
Just
what?
say
Hold
that.
on.
He's
I
a
wanna
British
say this.
sea captain. That's
You
that
say-
in itself is creepy.
Being a British sea captain, you're an idiot.
yeah.
Listen,
Oh, I'm sorry. How much?
why is it
straight
creepy to be a British sea captain?
It just is. We're going to go across the ocean.
Oh my God! If
What just-
Hopkins were here, he would
what just
kick your ass,
happened?
man.
I don't know, it'd just be a creepy thing. Also,
Why was such a badass captain?
I'm not saying he wasn't a badass captain,
But he was a creepy badass,
was
and he talked like this apparently,
was-
which is way off.
I
mark.
know, but then you think about it, like Daniel Day-Lewis, the brooding, emotional faces that he
Yeah.
continues to
Yeah.
have throughout.
That's
his,
what I wanted to say throughout his
You know,
career.
I'm not even done.
Okay.
Liam Neeson is kicking butt in the movie, just as he continues to do now in the Taken movies. It's all really just
Mel Gibson ended up stranded on an island somewhere, and none of us really care.
Right?
Yeah,
it's,
boom.
It's
It's just like now.
It's It really. I mean, that's it's kind of funny. It's like weirdly works out with it.
It's almost like they cast them for what they were supposed to do.
right. You
Crazy.
know, it's like nuts.
You know what scene sticks
Oh,
out
that's
to me?
sarcasm.
Yeah, it is
Okay,
sarcasm.
I didn't catch
What
that.
sticks out to me is when Daniel Day-Lewis is being, they're mutinying,
Right.
and they got him dancing, and they got the thing in his mouth, and they're like spitting water on him.
Mm-hmm.
I had such a flashback to him in There Will Be Blood when he's getting baptized, and he's just like,
Right.
because when
You
they
know-
spit the water on him, he just freaks out like that. And does that
Until
kind of
you,
like,
until at the very beginning, you said Daniel Day-Lewis was in this movie. I didn't realize Daniel Day-Lewis
It's a
was in this
young
movie.
Daniel Day-Lewis.
It's first off, it's a very young Daniel Day-Lewis, and then the other thing is that every movie that Daniel Day-Lewis enters into, it's like you don't see him, and like he's just gone.
What do you mean?
yeah, what do you mean?
Like when he is like, if you look at him in like Last of the Mohicans, and then you look at him as Bill the Butcher, and then you look at him as Lincoln, you don't go, oh yeah, that's Daniel Day-Lewis playing all those characters. Like when I look at Mel Gibson in this movie, I'm like, oh yeah, that's Mel Gibson,
Right.
and he's playing this guy, and like
I feel that
to
way
the
about Mel
extent-
Gibson's
to
hair.
the extent that when he was like freaking out when they were taking over the ship and he had the bayonet to Anthony Hopkins' neck, was that I literally had a moment where I was watching this and I was like, this must have been the movie that got him Lethal Weapon. Like this looks like the character from Lethal Weapon.
When was Lethal Weapon? Was
Was
like
Lethal Weapon
87.
years later.
I've never seen
Years
it.
later.
I've never seen it.
Yeah,
was
but
it
you-
90s though or 80s? This was 84.
late 80s.
Late 80s.
I
Oh,
think
yeah,
a couple
so it's
years
only a
later.
couple years later.
Daniel Day-Lewis disappears into his character in such an incredible way. I think that's what you mean to say.
Well, initially it's that he disappears into it, and the other thing is that his character is not like the most prominent character that's in the movie.
No.
And honestly, if you just showed me Daniel Day-Lewis because he disappears into his characters, if you just showed me regular Daniel Day-Lewis standing there, I'd be like, I don't know who that is.
Right. Okay, that's a
Yeah,
compliment.
I don't know
too.
if anyone knows what Daniel Day-Lewis
Yeah, I mean
looks
it as
like
a
when he goes to the
compliment.
grocery store.
Right. No, he's like the
Actually,
only.
I've seen him on like a talk show, and he looked like he was dressed like Prince or something like really outlandish.
You think he's playing a
attire.
character
Like
there
in an
too?
ice skater outfit.
Well, I think when you're like that, when you're like a method actor, you don't have any identity. You know what I mean? That's why he's great. Is he's just like, there's nothing to me. I have to fill the
You
hole.
think he looks in the mirror and goes, "I don't even know who I am anymore."
I think he wakes up in the morning, he finishes brushing his teeth, and he goes, "Who am I going to be today?"
Right. And he goes into his closet and then picks what he
No,
wants.
and then he goes into his workshop and he cobbles because that's a legitimate thing that he does. That's
That's
a real
crazy.
thing. He had to learn how to make shoes for a movie that he was in.
Yeah.
And now he's a cobbler. He
Yeah.
thought about quitting acting so that he could go and be a
I
cobbler.
wonder if that's going to happen to Adam Sandler
He's gonna cobble.
now that he's done the cobbler.
You know what I love is that you're referencing an Adam Sandler movie that nobody knows.
They know it's on the flicks now.
I know that it's on the flicks, but when did it come out?
He makes.
Yeah, it was,
he cobbles his scripts.
He's
Because
trying
they're
to
such
cobble
garbage.
his career back. Do you guys think Bly is a bad captain though?
I don't know. I think he's. Yeah.
I think there's a definitive turning point where he
Yeah.
starts to cross the line, and that's when they leave, and he gets Gibson in the office, and he tries to tell him what's up.
Right.
Gibson gives him the cold shoulder, and then he starts freaking out over every little thing.
Yeah.
That's where the line. But then you see his.
But I mean,
He's
that,
a
when
good
he
captain,
flipped
though.
out on Daniel Day-Lewis, like that in itself was just like, dude.
Oh, when he demoted.
Yeah, well, he's
Danny
like, dude,
Day?
chill.
No, I feel like
When he
that,
demoted
see,
DDL.
that I feel like first off is not what we're gonna call him, and secondly,
Danny Lou?
I'm more okay with Danny Lou.
Danny Day Lulu?
Diddle.
But no, like when he did that, when he demoted Daniel Day-Lewis's character, I was actually okay with it. I was like, okay, you're kind of a rough and tough, like you're like a very serious guy, but at the same time, he wasn't like crazy.
Right.
But there was the turning point for that character was right before it was when they like were setting back out to sea. And it was like and my problem with it was, or like when I look at him as a captain,
Right.
not like problem with the movie, but like when I look at it, is that it's like, oh, you just like had all of this stuff from the Naval Academy and stuff like that, like how to be a captain drilled into your head so hard that you just turn to that rather than the reality of like, oh, we're all human beings.
Yeah, his humanity is lost.
He's
admit
a little
that, even,
strict for an
Dennis.
island lifestyle.
Right. I mean,
However,
it's a little much.
He is on a naval mission.
Yeah, but
and he is the man in charge.
But it's like-
so when things go wrong and he goes back to Britain, maybe empty-handed or with half the crew missing because they stayed on the island because they got
Yeah.
too lazy and stuff. Guess what's going to happen
He's
to
got-
Anthony Hopkins'
He's
character.
got questions to answer.
It's gonna be way worse of fate than what happened to him in the long run.
Right.
Which
I would-
brings me to my next question. But first, what?
I was gonna say that it's kind of like he's like a corporate man, and then he loses
He's
like
the man in charge, you
Right,
know, and
and
you
that's-
want to be liked, but you have to be respected,
yeah,
and you have to
firm
kind of
but fair.
firm but fair, and
But
he
he
is firm
loses
but
the
fair, you know.
fairness
But
and the
Well,
Some-
no, and that's the thing.
He
He
loses.
loses
Right.
the fairness.
Yeah.
but it's because all his dudes start slacking off, and it's in a way,
You almost
it's
seem
his
to
fault.
agree with him in a lot of ways.
That's something that this movie plays on. Is like,
Right.
what, is Fletcher a good person? Is Bly a bad person?
Yeah,
Because
man,
I
there
think
are-
Bly's a good person with flaws, like all of us.
There are a lot of bad people in this movie.
Did you
man.
see how many people on that out? Those are all bad people.
Right. All those people.
You know,
Quintana was pretty cool.
This is the primary thing that I was thinking, and it was after Liam Neeson's character jumped ship with the other two guys and goes to shore, like they're gonna run away. Was that I had this moment where I was watching them like paddle away, and the guy's like, "You'll be hung for this," and I just had this moment where I was like, "Man, that was the stakes that they had to put it at because of just how much better. Like you leave dreary, cold, awful England, and you end up in Tahiti with like droves of topless women running after
Yeah,
you,
right.
and you're
Excited.
expected to leave.
Yeah.
Right.
Like you're expected to leave ever. I would be one of those guys who's like, nope, staying.
Yeah.
Like
I would just-
100%, I'd be a guy who's
But
staying.
How would you not be like you'd go up to the captain and be like, Bly, are you out of your
Are you
damn are you out of your damn mind? Do you realize we rolled up into this island and we were getting thrown flower necklaces and titties galore? Explain to me how you think you can't just be a regular used car salesman, man. You gotta be selling. Listen, we gotta get back. You gotta sell this like you've never sold something before. All right, because
Yeah.
to convince people to leave an island full of breasts after crossing the ocean, the weary and the awful Cape Horn. Don't even get me started on that horror nightmare that we know all too well because of deep water. And then you're gonna tell me that you're gonna tell how are you gonna sell this? Please tell me how you could spin this to a group of people, a group of horny men to leave this
There's
island.
no spinning. There's
Yeah,
no
there
spinning.
isn't.
You know why?
Yeah, there's none.
Right.
Because they ended up spending like weeks or months longer there than they intended
30
to.
weeks.
So 30 weeks total. Was
30
that their
weeks
stay?
was when they brought in it was more than that because 30 weeks was when they brought in Mel Gibson's character and he made him put the coat on when he had gotten the tattoos.
Right. That was 30 weeks, and then they stayed even longer. So let's say a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
What happens 4 years down the road when you're like, oh my God, I remember England. Like they had rooms where I could take a dump in, and now I'm living on this island and I've got this horrible disease. That's the sell. Because when they burn the boat at the end, right away they're like, oh my God, this is a reality. This isn't the beach where
Titties.
Leonardo da Listen, titties are great and everything,
Right.
but those things are gonna sag come year 10. Okay,
Yeah, I know. And then there's gonna be other younger, fresher.
and it's all you're gonna. What?
You're gonna end up as John Adams, the one man left on an island with nine women and 26 children.
Yeah.
23.
Whatever.
That's terrible.
At
That would
20,
be horrible.
Once you pass 20, it's like 20 to
irrelevant.
30. It's
Yeah.
irrelevant.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. He's
just
now
a
living.
horde.
He's like Lord of the Flies out there.
Who? John Adams?
It's not a good long game.
Right. Okay. No,
I get the
I-
titties,
I
Casey.
agree.
I get the titties.
You know
okay?
what? I
It's a
will
terrible.
agree.
It's a terrible long game. Except for what you're neglecting is that they left Tahiti.
Yes.
Had the idea been like, no, we're just gonna stay in this established society where there's already huts and they already have food and they already have all this stuff and there's already
They don't
all
have
these
that
women
much stuff,
here.
Yeah,
dude.
but it's not like
They're eating watermelon at every meal. All right, you're gonna get so sick of that stuff
You're
so
not-
quickly.
It's not like they're going. You make it seem like they're
It's-
going back to England with Wi-Fi.
There is
You
the
know
most.
what I mean? Like it's
You are
some of
having
them-
you are having the most the most amazing moment happening with you right now where you're almost like they've got to get back to a place where they'll have terrible boiled potatoes just like my family used to have.
Their whole
not
lives
selling.
are behind these
Like-
dudes. These are middle-aged dudes dudes. Granted, it's England, but you know what? England in the 1700s is still better than an island. Okay, what happens when they go to war with the other islands? It's like, wait a minute, I don't want to.
You know,
I didn't want to get involved with
you
this.
know, my favorite part of this movie.
You guys are really glamoring this up.
one of my favorite parts of this movie was when Liam Neeson and the other guy were jumping ship, and the guy's like, "You want to come with us?" And he's like, "No, I got a wife and I got 3 kids." And I'm like, "You haven't been home
Yeah, right.
in like
They
a
don't-
year and a half at
Wait,
this point."
hold on a sec. I gotta
Like-
ask you though. Then, how about this? If you're gone for a year and a half, do you start anew?
No.
You're yeah.
not you.
No,
yeah,
Terry.
not,
Oh.
yeah, not
No,
you.
no, no, it's
These
just
guys
funny
don't.
to
Not
me.
Golden Boy Steven.
Whenever,
Right.
no,
He
whenever,
comes back
Even though
home.
he's been selling this to me for the last 10 minutes.
It's
Right.
no, it's the same thing as when we were watching Deepwater, and it
Mhm.
was like Motissier goes back for a second time around,
Right.
and he's been out for over a year, and you
Yes.
have that moment where you're like, you haven't spoken to someone for a year,
Right.
like, go home. And I have the same feeling.
Yeah, but you're gonna
Like-
learn. You're gonna learn. That's not the same though, because Stephen, when you're staying on that island, you're gonna learn the language. Everyone's learning the language.
Right.
Even the natives are learning a little English.
Right. it's
No,
little
So
mix.
take that out of the equation.
I
You're gonna
like
stay?
how everyone else is supposed to stay on this island, but Steven is the guy that goes back. But
yeah.
you know, like you're
No,
hypocritical.
I would
Wish I could stay, guys, but I'm different than
no,
all
no,
of
this is
you.
the thing is that I could understand.
Yeah.
I could understand that guy's feeling. It's just hilarious to me whenever I watch any of these type of movies, any of the movies where it's like we're taking where it's like we're on a voyage, and how they do the voyage in every movie is that it's exactly what they did in this, where it's like where it's like shots of the ship and we're like panning around it, and then like a scene where there's like a lot of water coming over the edges. Oh, it was rough, and then we're there.
Mm.
And the reality that it comes down to is that was like 6 months.
Yeah.
Like
Maybe
it was
not
never
6 months, because the storms they'll go, but it's not. They're coming back, but it'll be 6 months of like on and
It
off.
was like
Well,
85 days.
But what I
believe,
mean is
extra.
that it's like 6
he went 85
months.
miles in that time.
Right. Yeah.
No, but what I'm saying is that it's like that scene until they get to Tahiti is that it's not like the buckets of water coming over the edge and stuff like that is the whole 6 months. But the reality is that it's like, no, to get from, like, nowadays, it'd be that moment where if I'm like, I'm going to go to Tahiti, it's like, oh, man, I've got a 16-hour flight ahead of me. This is going to be awful.
Mm-hmm.
And in their reality, it was like, we're going to Tahiti 6 months later. We're not quite there, guys.
Yeah.
Well, that's something you guys are undermining too. Is that like they know leaving their families and leaving England behind? Like they're in the British Navy,
Right.
And they're using wooden ships.
It-
Yeah, when they go around the world, it's gonna take. Well, I guess I'm going out for a year.
It comes with the territory.
Wife, you know,
But
it
let's
comes with
move,
the
Let's move
territory.
beyond that idea of whether
Yeah.
or not we would. But I
Is-
mean,
Okay.
no, go on. You were saying.
I was gonna say, do you guys think Bligh is responsible for the mutiny? Like the court sent, like the declaration at the court at the end that he's not responsible and he's like excluded from all blame. Do you think that was the right ruling?
This is what makes this movie worth streaming, because this is the discussion. This is the thing. This is like, do you think he is?
Well,
the
that's
reason?
what I mean. I feel like
Right.
you guys are underplaying
Right,
Bligh.
no, I know, I'm
as
not.
You're
I'm
playing
not.
him as a bad person, and
No,
that's my dude. Okay?
I just.
And we all have to acknowledge that Hopkins. Everyone was great in this, but Hopkins. It's like now I feel like I want to see his whole body of work
Right.
because I haven't seen anything else with him besides Noah,
Right.
Heineken,
Silence of the Lambs.
and Silence of the Lambs.
And
yeah,
it's a
so I
very
gotta see
poor
his other
representation.
stuff.
Maybe.
Yeah, you've had the poorest representation.
Right.
of
Really
this
has.
film.
Real
bad,
His
yeah.
whole catalog.
Yeah. I mean, it's. Do I think he's a bad Do I think?
No.
What's
Because
the question?
I don't think you guys think he's a bad person.
Right.
But do you think he's responsible? Like, do you think that, like, would you have mutinied if you were going through that? Or you just be like, man, Captain's pissed, but I want to get home and we got to make this work? Or
I
do you
mean,
mutiny?
You know, the thing is, in that instance,
And it's the 1700s, you know?
Right.
People are stupid.
in that instance, I would say that he's responsible because he doesn't learn to let that go, like to let the people who want to leave the ship, and they don't want to come back home. He can easily just go, all right, sure, stay, and the ones who want to come back will come back. Like, you know, am I crazy for thinking, was it everybody? I mean,
That gets to a point, though, because you need
he
a
is-
crew to run a ship.
but the people on his ship on the way, when he's like desolated in that mess of a situation before he hits land with the rest of those people, that's enough, I believe, to get back home. So it's kind of like, what are you doing, dude?
What did he have, like 9 guys on the
I
ship?
think he had like maybe 12.
I think that he is responsible.
Yeah.
And I think that it's for something that, like, we actually haven't haven't really touched on with it yet. I think the reason that he's responsible is that his reaction to the entire thing reminds me of like, it's like if you have like a girlfriend who's real mad about something and she's been really mad about it for a really long time.
Yeah. Right.
And she's never told you about it.
This is a
And
great
then
analogy.
one day she just explodes and
Right.
you're like, whoa,
Yeah.
I didn't know any of that. Like you didn't, you've told me nothing. I've been I thought we were having
That's
a
where
great
I'll
time
disagree,
this
though.
whole time. In the sense that is like those months, especially if you think of it as months and months and months and months and months, is that he's obviously not having these like I need the breadfruit trees looked at every day, told to somebody in an angry way every day because it's not getting done every day. Like it's like these big spaced out things. And so you end up in this position where it's like when he comes back like with the hammer of like everybody's back on this ship and we're doing things my way and we're doing it this way and is that it's like he's been sitting on the ship really quietly expecting everybody to be doing what they're
Just
supposed to be
sweating
doing
constantly.
just sweating
Just
with so
dehydrated.
many buttoned up shirts and
Yeah.
coats on and then one day he just snapped.
But it's not one day,
And-
though.
no,
He talks to everybody a couple times.
he talks to everybody
Right.
Every
a couple
time he
times.
brings down the hammer, it's because someone did something. It only starts being really unwarranted when they leave.
You know,
Well, no, and
that's
that's
what I
but that's what I mean is that they don't. It's not like he's like you don't see him throughout the entire thing where it's like they've been there for 4 months or 5 months, and he's like, why? And he's not. It's not like he's continually reminding all of the crew like, remember we're leaving.
Right.
Like, remember we're leaving.
Well, that's part of the problem.
You're like,
is-
you guys are like building a life here. We're leaving, and you need to remember that we're leaving the moment that we get all of this
it's
stuff
pride
on board.
and ego that sort of
And
causes
it's
that
like he
mutiny.
just like sits on the side and just goes, everybody knows. Everybody obviously knows. They obviously know what's going on. They obviously know we're leaving. And then he like stands up to be like, okay, guys, we're leaving. And they're like, no, this is amazing. And he's like, oh, I thought you guys knew the whole time.
So you think they're justified?
I don't know if they're justified in their mutiny.
They signed up for this.
No, I don't mean that they're justified in their mutiny. What I'm saying is that did he cause the mutiny?
Okay, I mean, if you know what I'm asking.
Yes.
Obviously,
Yeah.
his actions had to do with why. I know that, but do you think they're justified? That's my question. I didn't know I had to phrase it that specifically.
Well, no, because you asked that question at the end of the people at the court,
Right.
like the court decision of things. I would put him at fault for the mutiny because I would say that his ability as a captain leading up to the mutiny is what caused the mutiny to happen. Are the people who were
I don't think he did anything out of
justified?
line enough to make a mutiny.
No, I don't mean that that he did things that made it justified that they mutinied. I'm saying that the reason that they mutinied was because of things he did. It wasn't like they just woke up one day and went, "No, we want to stay in paradise." It was that he didn't lead them through the entire expedition. He didn't lead them in the way that he needed to in my mind be considered where it was like, okay, you were a great captain and then you had a group of people who were unruly and decided to turn on you. I think that the lead up, and it's not even once they leave and then he starts being crazy about things where it's like it's not clean enough and it's not that, where he's essentially like looking at Mel Gibson's character and being like and essentially just being like, I'm gonna whip the Satan out of you.
It's almost
Because you've
impossible
gone
for
and like
them not
lived
to
on an
mutiny.
island.
That's the thing. It's almost impossible for them to
It's
not.
it's very possible for them not to mutiny, guys.
It's impossible for
it's
them.
it's the military.
What do
It's
you-
the military.
Yeah.
You signed up to be treated badly and to follow orders. And what happened? We took this mission and
Right.
we got stuck on this beautiful island with beautiful titties everywhere,
Right.
watermelon at every meal. And here's part of the problem too, Stephen, is that they have nothing to do. They're just waiting for plants to grow so that they
Right.
could take with them. So they have no obligations on this island but to lay around and make lives for themselves and
It's-
sleep with women. But you have to be thinking that whole time, like, this isn't real life. It's real life for them.
Right.
But I still maintain the opinion that, like, year 4, you're going nuts, and you're like, this is not, I can't do this.
It's almost like in the beginning of the movie they say, you know, when Mel Gibson's character, Fletcher Christian?
Yeah.
Yeah, he says He's like, so so we're just doing it to deliver. It's a grocery trip.
Yeah, basically, like, this is
Yeah,
no
that's what he
biggie.
said. This is just a so
Yeah.
we're doing.
It's a long trip, but we're
It's
not
a-
fighting or anything.
Yeah, so it's just a long grocery trip, and there's something that kind of gives away to Anthony Hopkins when he says, "Well, this is how I make my name for myself." So at any and all costs, that's what he wanted to do.
Because the part of it that
Yeah.
would make him his name was the fact that he was going to circumnavigate it.
and bring back the crew. You
Yeah.
can't It's not a successful voyage if you circumnavigate and come
you
back.
lose like a couple people.
Yeah,
it's okay.
couple.
I think.
But they have that with the
Yeah,
surgeon.
I have to admit that, like,
looks
depending
poorly.
on how many people it would have been, like, because that's what I think is kind of funny is that he turned to, like, Mel Gibson's character, Liam Neeson's character, like maybe 3 other people, and just gone, you guys can go. You get to take nobody with you. You're gonna go in the middle of the night, and I'm leaving tomorrow. You're dead.
Right.
And then you just leave. And so you could easily get back to England and be like, they're all dead, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of thing that's like when I look at something like Donald Crowhurst, where he's like, they're gonna look at my logbook and they're gonna know that they're gonna know that I cheated. Is that it's like, okay, pick up the logbook,
Throw it overboard.
throw it overboard, and
Rogue
go,
wave. Oh no.
and go back to England.
Yeah.
And it's like, and that's where I think that, like, him being like that to me was
But
one
that's
of
pride, man. That's pride and ego, and that's the same reason that causes him to not do those things. It's uncharacteristic of who he is, which is why he would. I mean, that's what makes it so interesting. It's
He's the
that
boss.
aspect. It's because it's the same thing with Donald Crowhurst. He couldn't do that. It's the same thing with
Yeah.
Anthony Hopkins' character. He couldn't do that. He couldn't just be like, "All right, gentlemen, you steal away into the night. I'm gonna go home with 5 people light," and just lie and say they killed themselves. Instead, he goes and he defends himself with integrity and honor. I gotta say, I do like that. I respect that from him.
I'll say this: I respect Bly more than I respect Gibson.
Yes.
Gibson.
I will
got
say
loose.
that.
Gibson
Right.
being unprofessional. This is why you don't work with friends. Because when you work with friends, listen, if he had never promoted him too,
Right.
That's a good point.
less
Mhm.
pressure on him.
Yeah.
Why are we doing this?
Right.
I don't know.
You guys are my friends, and I gotta go.
Yeah. But
That and don't work with your friends, and also just
Don't
If
take
you
a
have a
year.
job-
Don't take a year and a half long grocery trip.
if you have a job, do your job, guys. Don't stick like the crew. It's very
It was-
upsetting to me that the crew that he picked were so easily. I think it was they mutinied way too easily.
Right. But I mean,
You
it's just hard to keep people motivated when you sail to Tahiti and you go through hell. Nobody wants to go through hell twice in their life.
Nobody wants to be in charge of a group of people and leading them through hell, though.
Right. I know.
People
It's-
don't realize.
It's
Like,
a tough situation. This is why I like the movie so much,
I think
because
it's
it
a good
has
movie.
that aspect.
so
It
let's
has-
get to now that we talked about all that stuff. What are your problems with the movie that it's not a good like you
Right.
wouldn't say? Streaming?
It
If
consistently.
it can't just be like, before you begin, I'm sorry to cut you off. It can't be just. It needs if it was a half an hour shorter like that.
and if you
can't-
say you don't care,
if that's your reasoning for
I don't
it,
care about anyone
like,
and it was
I
too long.
plead and beg you. It can't just be, oh, if the movie was half an hour shorter, I would have liked it.
Yeah,
I don't mean. Well, no.
Ugh.
When I say half an hour shorter, I don't mean like, man, had this thing just ended
Right.
much sooner, I
Right.
would have enjoyed it more. What I mean is that I think that there was pacing throughout the movie that was just dragged. Like there were scenes, whole scenes that just like dragged and didn't need to be there, and there were too many like artful like how many artful shots of Mel Gibson not talking to this woman while falling in love with her, where I had this moment where I was like, you don't actually have a connection to this
I could have
woman.
done with
You
a few
think
less
she's-
of those.
Like
Right.
you think she's like every one of these scenes is just I think she's really pretty.
But the
scenes.
score is really good.
And,
I think that
No, and there's a lot of there are a lot of great things about this movie. It's just that as a whole movie standing up these days, where it's like when I watch it now, I'm like the pacing is just too slow for me. There's too much there's not enough that happens. A lot of the movie
How can
is,
you say that?
No, but a lot of the movie is things not happening. It's them sitting and waiting for plants to grow.
titties within half an hour.
You get titties so quick,
Yeah.
and then they stay for most of the film.
This is the thing is that, like I said, if I was 13 and this was on HBO when I didn't own a laptop, I'd be like, yeah. but I have access at any given moment to all pornography.
It's weird that you're watching porn now while we do this podcast.
A little awkward.
Look, different strokes for different folks.
Right.
I just think the dialogue is good enough and the story is simple. Like at no point, and
That's
I
why
commend
I
this,
like the porn also.
At no point in this movie was I ever like, wait, what's going on?
Right.
I always got it. And that's
Right.
something when I see a movie that's set in the 1700s, I'm like, oh, and white wigs at the beginning, I'm like, oh, jeez, here we go.
This is gonna be complicated.
Colonial speak, and I'm not gonna. This is gonna be
complicated.
some political BS that I don't
Yeah.
get. But
Yeah,
I
as
like
soon
this
as-
movie.
as soon
And
as
it's
I-
action packed.
Words weren't even being said, and I'm like, I'm already lost. I just saw the white wigs, and I was lost.
So I'm gonna stay with streaming.
This is how your guys' countries got conquered.
Yeah. Well,
They walked in with pretty jackets and wigs.
That's all
You
it
guys
does.
were
me
like,
close.
I don't get how you could say don't stream it. I mean, you know what? I get how you can say it. I guess this is what a difference in opinion truly is, and just not agreeing or respecting you as a person.
This is no.
is who I am now.
This
Yeah,
is the
this
other
one really
thing.
hurts,
This
Steven.
is-
The
no,
fact
no,
that you
no.
didn't like
this
this
is
one.
this is the other thing
Right.
is that once again, okay, do I think it's a bad movie? No.
No.
It's not a bad movie.
Right.
Okay? But and you've said this before when you've said don't stream it, is if somebody talked to me and was like, and was like, "Oh yeah, you guys watch a bunch of stuff on Netflix. What should I watch?"
You know what? If you're
This
gonna,
is not. I'm not like.
What if they
I'm not
say-
like The Bounty? You should watch this
Right,
movie.
if
It's
this
awesome.
isn't-
What if they say, you know what? I'm like, what's like a good Anthony Hopkins movie? Or like, you know who I just saw? It was Liam Neeson. It's like, has this guy ever?
but
where did he start
it's
off?
not that question. It's would
It's
you
not.
stream it or not? And if you're gonna use my
And
argument
even- and it-
against me, I'm gonna agree with you. So
Wait, what's the argument? Oh, the casual viewing.
I'm not gonna lie, it works.
These two are about to kiss. It's
Right.
happening right in front of you. You guys just had the exact same laugh.
Right.
No, I'm gonna completely disagree with you guys. You can watch this casually.
I feel
watch
the
it
same
with
way.
friends.
I feel the same way as you, Dennis.
Watch it with friends.
I agree
like
with
at
you.
the same time as an episode of Friends.
Yeah, like running simultaneously.
Simultaneously.
Let 'em
It's
drown
like
in
The
the
Wizard
ocean
of
for that
Oz
one.
and Pink Floyd's The Wall.
Now we're at odds again. Here we go.
Yeah, it only took a few minutes.
Even I'm mad at you too, Casey.
Why?
I don't know. There's something
Why?
about.
I agree with his opinion. I get it, but I
Okay,
just don't. I agree
okay.
with his.
What are we watching next week?
What do we got?
I agree with his reasoning. I just don't think he's right. I can't disagree with someone using my reasoning. That's foolish. We're watching Fruitvale Station.
But wait a minute. They were wearing old clothes. We're in a paradox.
Right? No. Listen, it's old. It's so old that I can't. I can get lost in it. But if
Just
it's
watch
it's not
Hopkins yell at
tacky,
people.
How
It's
many
great.
decades do we need to go back before you let it go?
I let it. You gotta go. I would say anything 60s and before, and I'm on board.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's on really what it comes
I'll
down
just
to.
keep that in mind.
Yeah,
So there's like a window
right. There's a window.
of not watching.
Also, it's also the
It's
style.
that it has to be old enough that it doesn't look like something that you might
have
have.
right.
Like a version
What it amounts
where you
to.
look at somebody and you're like, those lapels are too big.
Right. If I could be like, I think my dad wore this. I'm not in.
Okay.
But we're watching Fruitvale Station. None of us have seen it,
yeah.
and I'm really excited to watch this movie because I've heard good things and I really wanted to watch it.
Plus, what better time
Then now,
than now to watch
Right.
a movie about? I'm pretty sure a young black kid dying unnecessarily.
right? So
This is just from seeing the poster.
right. Yeah. I'm gonna be honest. That's what I think it's about.
That's what we're all thinking,
And-
right? I mean,
and may or may not involve fruits. That's I'm
thought-
not sure.
Jesus Christ.
I don't know.
I thought it was about a long trek grocery delivery.
Good God.
Fruitvale
All right. Well,
Station.
you know what? Check out flicksbookclub.com. I really wish we'd ended on a better note than Steven's awful joke.
Oh,
and
look, okay.
all right.
Sometimes
Quit
you
it.
win, sometimes
And
you
then
lose.
everyone say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.